By the Augustine Educational. Oh, yeah, let me do it again. Aloha and welcome, iTeach808, Empowering Hawaii's Teachers in Technology Conference, sponsored by the Augustine Educational Foundation and Sacred Hearts Academy, Honolulu. My name is Stan Renan, and I'll be co-facilitating this session with Derek Lee. It's an honor to have Noah Myers join us today and share his expertise through a 45-minute presentation named Google Sites Make Your First Website. Please be aware they will be recording this session. If you don't like being recorded, you may consider turning off your camera during the session or reviewing the recording afterwards. The recording will be made available on YouTube and shared on iTeach808's website a week after this event. Without further ado, I'll turn it over to Noah Myers.
Thank you very much, Stan, for that warm welcome. And thank you everybody for showing up today. So this is going to be a basic run through of the Google Sites feature in the Google suite. If you've never really dabbled in it, or you've lightly dabbled, or even if you have your own website, I hope that this presentation has something for everybody. But it's definitely focused more on the people who perhaps haven't made their own Google website yet. But I assure you, it's actually pretty easy. You just have to need to know where to start and a few tools to get you going. So if you haven't already, please access the bit.ly link that I put in the chat. I'll put it one more time so that you can have access to the slides. If you're having trouble opening them, perhaps the sharing privileges are blocking you from making your own copy, let me know. I'll give everybody a few seconds to get that going in case you need it later on. Okay. I'll take your silence as compliance and I shall move on. Today, all students will create their own Google site, add multiple pages to that site, add content and media to a page, and learn how to safely publish their own site when it's ready. So that's just a few things that we're going to be going over today, or an overview of what we'll be doing. Before we begin, you can either give me a thumbs up or a hand raise using the reactions feature in Zoom. How many of you have visited a website before? I should see thumbs everywhere. All right, right on. Let's go to the next question. How many of you have wanted to make your own website? Give me thumbs up. Right on, then you're in the right place. I see a bunch of thumbs. Cool. And this one will be our last question. How many of you have actually made a website before? Let me know. Oh, cool. Got a bunch of you. Yeah, right on. Good for you guys. So even if you've made a website, I think this presentation will offer something to you. But again, I'm just going to be going through the basic features of setting up your own Google site. So why Google Sites? It's easy, it's fast, and you don't need to know how to code in HTML or CSS at all. You can use some of that, but that's a much more advanced option. And honestly, if you're doing anything in HTML and CSS, you're probably going to want to use another website creating or website editor because advanced features like that are a little bit harder to use within Google Sites. But if you don't know any of that coding, then Google Sites is perfect for you. It does have somewhat limited features, but that's okay because I promise you it'll do everything that you need it to do. So for instance, I have a website set up for my class for all of the courses that I teach. Let me see if I can get to it really quick. Oh, you know what? Myers CS. I believe that's it. Yep. So this is my own personal website that I have created for all of my classes. I have a home page and I have a different tab for every single course that I teach, as well as a downloads tab too. So it's not fancy, it's not crazy, but it has everything that I need in order to properly communicate with my students. So after today's presentation, I am confident that you guys will be able to create something just like this for your own courses if you want. So let's begin, shall we? Making a website is easy. I dare you to change my mind. Where do we start? Sites.google.com. You can click on this link. I'll post it in the chat if you need it there. And when you get there, it'll look something like this. And I want to make sure that you guys have the correct version because there are 2 versions of Google Sites. If you see this logo right here, the one with the red X over it, don't go there. Don't go there. That's the first version. It's a lot more complicated and very easy to get lost in. The new version of Google Sites has this logo right here, and it's a whole lot easier, okay? So as you can see, I have the correct version up here. On the bottom, you can go back to classic sites if you want. I wouldn't recommend it. It's a lot harder to set up a website there. This new version is a whole lot easier and user-friendly. So you can create a blank template or a blank website or start from a template. There's a whole lot of templates on offer, from work to small business and all kinds of other stuff. But for today's purposes, I strongly recommend you start with a blank template because we're going to just be adding things from scratch, okay? So as you have your blank template, you'll pop up with a screen like this. I've already changed the name of it, but I'll go over that in the next slide. But I would strongly suggest that you guys have this on your own. I'm going to try to have some time at the latter parts of of this presentation so that you guys can practice making your own websites. You don't have to make full-on robust, extremely well-developed sites today. I just want you to get started. So assuming you're in the correct location on the right URL and you've got a blank website open, here's what I recommend you do. I already mentioned this. We can skip that. It will ask you to take a tour. That's awesome. Go ahead, read through the boxes, but we're going to go over a lot of this stuff today, so I'm going to skip this slide for right now. Okay, so one thing that's extremely important, undo, redo, and version history. This is similar to a Google Docs or Google Slides. As you see up here, if you make a mistake, oh, no, I didn't want to do that. I go backwards, and it undoes what you didn't want to happen. You can also redo it if you want the mistake to be there, but it's up to you. Version history is pretty cool because you can see the different versions of, well, the different iterations of your website as it comes out. I only created this today, so there's not much else to be made, but Google is automatically saving your work. And so each version that it saves, especially if there's significant changes, it'll create a version of that iteration of your work. So if you make a mistake or you give somebody else rights to edit it and they totally trash it, you can always go back to what you had yesterday or the day before, depending. So with Google Sites, it's possible to go back in time. Imagine that. Headers, titles, and header image. So this is the first thing people see when they look at your page. The title of your page, I just call it a sample site. And then it'll say the same thing here. And perhaps I'm going to call this, we'll call it iTeach808 demo. Cool, perfect. You can mess with this a little bit. As you see these blue dots on the side, you can make it wider. And I'm not too sure if you guys can see it on your screens, but there are different lines vertically that represent spaces or measurements within the site itself. Okay, cool. Thank you, Adriana. So I usually try to keep things, because I'm a little OCD, at the same locations, so it's centered. As you can see, I kind of like have the same line on the left and the right-hand side, and also the alignment is in the center right here. You can do left alignment. It's up to you on your style. I tend to like them in the center, but that's just me. You can change the type of font. Ooh, let's go with graffiti. So you select the stuff that you already have. Now, ain't that fancy. You can change the size, make it bold, make it italics, underline it, text color, change that too. You can even add it as a link to another website, perhaps. I'm not too sure why you would want to make your title a website, but hey, it works. It's options. You can change the image. You can select one that Google has for you already. I like this one. Let's do that. And one cool thing about when you do that, it automatically alters the theme. As you see down here, it's there's these little sparkles. You click that, and it adjusts it for readability. Yes, it is. You can do header type, whether it's a cover, which is huge, a large banner, banner only, or title only. And that's how you would change the size of the background. However, if you notice you're doing title only, you get rid of the fancy color in the background. So that's kind of how you would manage that, okay? Like I said, Aldine, it's a little limited in the different features that it has, but there are some things that you can do to customize it. So that's kind of about the headers, titles, and header image. And again, you change the image and the header type over here. You can even reset it to go back, but hey, I like how it is. So I do the back in time. All right, now we get to create pages. So this is only one page. This is your insert page, or your home page, if you will. So if you want to make more than one page on your stuff, your web page, your website, you go to the pages section right here, and it lists your home right there. But I want to make another section. We'll just call it page 2, for lack of a better word. Click done. Cool, we got another page. And as you can see, it has the same background. You can change this one too. If you notice, the text or the font style went back to the standard. I generally like to keep them all the same, so it creates consistency. The classic sites, I don't think will disappear. Usually they try to keep that stuff because a lot of websites were used, or a lot of websites use classic sites to create their sites. And I think if they get rid of that feature, it'll probably get rid of those sites perhaps. So I doubt they're going to get rid of it. I haven't seen any ways to convert a classic site to a new site. So that's a question I can't really answer to you. Sorry if that's what you were looking for. One thing that you can do is make another web page and just copy and paste everything over. It will look different though. Another thing that's really cool, you can add a sub page. And what this is, if you were to look at my site, I have sub pages. Actually, no, I don't have sub pages. But if I were to have a sub page, it would be a drop-down menu up here. And I would probably put like assignments, course syllabus, and things like that. But I just kept it pretty simple for my students this year, and I didn't get it too crazy because a lot of them said that, I hate to say this, they just didn't go to my webpage that often. So I was like, oh, well, I guess I'll put it on Google Classroom then. But subpages, if you're to notice, let's go preview. It has a drop-down menu on the top now, and now I can go to subpage 2. I can also navigate back to the home page like that. But cool, preview done, right on. I'm going to close this, exit preview mode, and go back to editing mode. And that's a little bit about making pages, subpages. You can always click on the 3 dots on the right and duplicate a page. You can hide it from navigations because maybe you're not ready to publish that particular page and you don't want people to click on it. Oh, I'm glad you learned something, Kelly. Right on. You can make it the home page, which would be pretty weird. But I'm gonna nest it under this guy. And that's another way you can do it too. Say you create another page. Hey, oh, it automatically made it out here, but you can even do subpages and subpages, which is kind of weird. But hey, anything's possible, right? Let's go back to home. And that's a bit about pages and subpages. You can change the properties of them if you want. There's some advanced stuff if you want to do a custom path, but you don't have to mess with that today. You can duplicate pages. And again, like I said, hide it from navigation if you want. You guys have any questions on pages before I move on? All right, cool. There's a whole lot of things you can insert into your website. So you'll often see text, you'll often see media like pictures and videos and stuff. All of that stuff will be here. There's a whole lot available to you. I'm not going to go over everything, but I'm just going to give you a quick overview. Yes, as you add more stuff, the length of the page will be extended and it'll become longer. So that's a really good question. So let's add something that's pretty stock. Bernie Sanders meme. Oh, they're not showing. Let's go Bernie Sanders mittens meme. Oh, come on, guys. Really? Well, that makes no sense. Come on, Google. You're letting me down today. It is really letting me down. Okay, we'll just put a picture of Bernie. I like that with mittens. Whatever. All right, Bernie Sanders talking to people. That's one way to insert stuff. You can make it bigger. As you can see, it has the same lines that your guys are able to see for the outline. So you can kind of center it or organize it into different sections of the web page. If you want to add another, say you go to YouTube, or you get a video of cats doing funny things, because everybody loves cats videos, right? Oh, sweet. So I want to embed this in my site. You can do it by the URL. So I go click on this. I found the URL. And I paste it in. Takes a second. Cool. I got a funny cat video on my website. And as you can see, the website is getting a little bigger. And yeah, that's one way to embed a video or something like that. You can also add stuff from your Google Drive. Takes a second to load up. Here's a cool image that I took on Maui from Haleakala after the sunset one night. It was absolutely gorgeous. I would highly recommend it. Haleakala is not just for the sun setting, but the sun rising as well. I don't think that the video will automatically play. I believe that the person that is visiting to your website will have to click on the video to start it. But it should loop and continue to play over and over again, I believe, depending on what you're using. If you're uploading a video from your Google Drive, then that may have different results than one from YouTube. But YouTube is pretty easy to get stuff from, so that's why a lot of people use it. One other thing you guys can do is mess with layouts. So say I want to add a picture. I'm going to put this one in here, and I have some text. Haleakala sunset. and it automatically has this template set up for you. Thank you, Aldine. Highly recommended. Yeah, I can spell, I swear. And that's one way that you can use templates to speed up your design and things that you put in. You can have 2 pictures, so on and so forth. Collapsible text is pretty cool. And if we were to go look at this, this is one interesting way that you can create pull down menus, if you will. So I want to link this, but I'm going to put it to perhaps another page on my website, or I can even link it to a URL of the cat video, perhaps. Or, in the sample, I can create a link too. So this is another way to create pull down menus within your own page if you don't want to rely on the stuff at the top over here, okay? And you can add more as well. It doesn't have to be just one. Another thing that people like to do is create buttons to other stuff. You can do an image carousel, a table of contents, all kinds of cool things. I would recommend, I don't want to spend time going through every single one of these, but I would recommend just going and clicking through and trying things out. You can put stuff from your calendar. This one's pretty cool because you can put your own calendar. Say you have one for your students when assignments are due so that they can keep things, keep track of things in your class. You can put in YouTube links, much like how I did up here, but with the button right here. Stuff from maps, docs, slides, all kinds of things. And the cool thing with that is that you can control the size of it as well too. Image carousel is pretty cool, but I would like to talk about buttons real quick. And then I want say, hey, you're on my homepage, but if you want to check out this cool thing, I'm going to send you to the Untitled page. And it looks like a button. Cool, right? You can always go and edit it. You can change how it looks with filled, outlined, or just with text. It's up to you. And that's a quick overview of the different things that you can insert into your own web page. I went over a whole bunch of this stuff already. So we're gonna, I actually talked about pages. Ooh, I skipped around, sorry, my bad. And now let's talk about preview settings and things like that, because this is where you really have to be careful. So say I want to publish this really crude website that I randomly threw together, right? So if you have your own web address, you've purchased a domain, you can put it in here as your address to share with people. That costs money. You have to keep paying for it every single year, but you don't have to do something like that, okay? You can manage who views your site. So say you create a website that you only want your students to see. You can add in their email addresses. You can do it with a link. You can restrict who you use it, or restrict who you can share it with and things like that. And then that's one way to do it. These people that I've shared it with are myself. So if you choose to collaborate with others on a website, be careful who you give publishing permissions to or editing permissions to, because they can go and mess up your site. And even though you can use version history to go back in time, it's still a little bit of extra work for you. So it's always good to just be careful who you share it with, right? But when you're ready to publish it, oh, this section right here, sorry, I forgot to mention. That is a really good question, Adriana. Can I come right back to that after this? So this site has not been published at all yet, and so it doesn't even have a web address yet. So I'm going to call this sample site. And as you can see, it's already taken because somebody had the genius idea of using sample site already. But whatever you write right here will change what happens in the bold text right here. This, and if you press spacebar, it's going to automatically add a dash because there are no spaces in website addresses. A test website. If somebody has this, oh my God, somebody has that. That's ridiculous. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So there's a bunch of different ways to like create your own website web address, and when you're done with that, you can publish it right here. Remind you that if you do publish it, it is open to the web, the World Wide Web, and unless you choose who can view it right here. So be careful with that stuff. All right, Adriana, you had a question about how can a kindergarten teacher use a web page. So I have a 2-year-old daughter who's already trying to master the iPad. So I have a feeling that your kindergartners can probably navigate web pages. They may not be able to read perfectly yet, but you might be able to use that to organize communication with your parents, because kindergarten parents are often a lot more involved with their daughter's or son's life and their schoolwork. So you might use it as a way to communicate and kind of lay out, hey, here's what we're doing in class this week or this quarter or whatever you want to do. So that's one way you might be able to use it in your own pedagogy. Otherwise, directing your kindergartners to a specific section of your website to complete an assignment, I don't know if that's necessarily going to happen, but it might help you provide samples of what they're doing in class, and to communicate with parents is, I think, the best way to use in a kindergarten situation. Yeah, no problem. Yeah, you can insert whatever kinds of questions you want on the web page. It's up to you. So if you click on text box, it'll simply be a blank text box, and then insert whatever text you want here. You can change the type of text, whether it's the title, heading, subheading, small, or normal text, and change the font, make it a bigger size. Sometimes if you're doing a title, some of the options are not available, but it looks like they're allowing you to mess with the font size and everything else here. So it's pretty cool. Size 24. Bold. Cool. A couple of things in the settings are important to mention. So if you want it to be a top navigation, like how it is right now, you can choose this one. If you want the navigation to be on the side, then you can change that right here. And as we preview the web page, oh, where'd it go? I guess it didn't save. You can also change whether it's transparent, white, or black. Brand images. So if you're creating a website for your school, I would recommend getting your school's seal or your school's icon. For me, it would be JCHS, and then that will appear next to your title right there. Change the alt text, but that one's not necessary. Custom URLs, again, if you have your own domain. And analytics is something that I don't think you guys will use, but it's something to consider. But it requires a bit of setup, so that's why I didn't choose to announce it today. Announcement banner is something you can use to say, hey, welcome to my website, enjoy it, go check out the different pages and stuff like that. And you can choose how it appears, either just on the home page or all pages. You can choose the color of it. We'll do purple, I don't know why. And then yeah, that's a few things in the settings that you can mess with. So I'll close that. I'm not going to publish it because I have not, I just don't really want the World Wide Web to see this website that I just created. All right, so Shirley, that's a really good question. If you share it with somebody and you give them editor privileges, then they can mess with your website. However, if you just give them the URL to your website, what they're going to see is what you're seeing in your preview right here. If you're on a tablet, it looks like this. If you're on a phone, it looks like that. So they won't actually be able to edit your website at all. They're just going to be visiting it and checking it out. Okay. Suzanne, good question. So in the sharing options, there's a settings right here. And it only gives you really one option, but editors can publish, change permissions, and add new people. So be careful who you give editing privileges to, because they're going to have a lot of power over your website, all right? All right, guys, that's kind of like a quick little overview of the different ways to build out and create your own website. If you guys would like me to go over anything else, or you have any other questions about making a Google site, let me know. I'm going to allow 10 more minutes we have 10 more minutes in this presentation time slot. So if you guys want to start making your own websites, or if you have any other questions, I am here to answer anything that comes up. Okay. Placeholder. Let's check it out. It is simply an empty block. You can add something else here, but it's saying, I want something to go here, but I'm not too sure what yet. But it is simply just taking up place. It's holding place. Much like a cone in your parking spot at work, right? It's holding your parking spot, if you will. Oh, good question. Google Sites and Google Classroom. For my own website, I directed students to it in the beginning of the school year so that they can check out my syllabus. As you can see, I added a Google Doc for my drive. Check out the course outline and things like that. And if there are any downloads for software that we use in my class or books that I share with them. But yeah, that's kind of how I used it. I just use Google Classroom as a way to organize assignments for my class. So they're not really going back and forth from the two. Especially this year with distance learning, I didn't want to overwhelm my students with places that they have to go in order to succeed in my class, just because they're already rather overwhelmed with life as it is. So I did most of my course organization on Google Classroom so that they didn't have to go a bunch of different places and then feel lost, because every teacher is kind of telling them to do something different. So I tried to keep it as simple as possible. Okay. What is free to publish? Yeah, I'm glad it's not so scary, Kavehi. So when you're publishing, if you have a custom URL, or if you buy your own domain, that you have to pay for. But if you just put in and a domain means the stuff right here, right? So if you have your own domain, you manage that right here. So if I have www.thisisacustomdomain.com, you can put that on your own website, but you have to pay for this stuff right here. That is what costs money. However, if you just want to use Google and their domain, which is totally fine, then you just create your own ending to this stuff right here. So this is a sample website address. Oh, I reached the max. Hey, cool. It's publishable. Oh, I'm sorry, Kelly, that you had a hard time, but I'm glad that this helped you out. But this is free. This is absolutely free to you. You don't have to pay for this. And this is actually the website that you give people. You go check yours out. I'm feeling brave. I'm going to publish this. Let's see what happens. I'm going to view my published site. And as you can see, that domain I just created is right here. And y'all can go check it out if you want. It's so impressive. I'm not sarcastic at all. Yeah. As you can see, here's my welcome message right up here. So say, oh no, I want to get rid of the Bernie picture. What I would do is once you delete something, you make any changes, you publish your current changes, and it shows you your draft and what's currently published so you can see the difference. Cool. It knows that Bernie Sanders picture is out. I'm going to publish that. Right on. So that's how you'd make changes and then publish again. You can always publish again. And say, I don't want to publish this site anymore. I'm going to unpublish it right here. Yay, you guys don't have to look at my website no more because it doesn't exist. Cool, any other good questions? Yes, you do. You have to click publish in order to finalize. Cool, I'm glad you liked it. You're very welcome, Ululani. All right, guys, well, we have 5 more minutes left in this presentation slot. If you guys are, yeah, so your site is still saved, Adriana. It's not gonna get rid of this file. Oh, you're so welcome, Aldine. But if you wanna publish it again, you can always publish it again, right? However, if you wanna delete this site file, so another way to make a Google site, say you're in your drive, you click on more, and you click on sites, it'll actually make a site right here within your drive. It's a file. Everything's a file, right? But I don't want this no more. I'm gonna get rid of it and I can remove it. That's another way you can actually totally get rid of it. But then you lost your beautiful website that you spent so much time making, you know what I mean? So that's up to you. A couple different ways to manage it. All right, guys, so there's a couple minutes left in the presentation slot. If you're good, you're welcome to head out and get ready for your next presentation, grab a bite to eat. I'll be here until 11:45. If you have any more questions for me, I'm happy to answer them. But if you're gonna head out, I just wanna say thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate you guys stopping by and I hope you got something from this presentation. Again, the slides are yours if you ever need them in the future. If you share them with anybody else, just feel, sorry, I'm tripping over my tongue. If you share them with anybody else, all I ask is that you just say thank you to me. Just let them know that you got this from me. I really appreciate you all being here. I do not have a post assessment for this one, but if you want to send me the URL to your website, I'll consider that as a survey. Yep, I'll give you the link. Give me 1 second. Here's my final slide. All right. That should prompt you to make a copy of the slides for yourself. You're very welcome.
All right, that should be wrapping it up. Mahalo to No Myers and for everyone's participation. We hope you'll find this session helpful and make some valuable connections. Thank you for being here today. Feel free to join us for other sessions coming up and have a wonderful day.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate y'all being here. I did want to thank Sacred Hearts and St. Augustine for putting this on. Much appreciated. I'll be in here for another minute if you guys have any more questions. Otherwise, I'll see you later, perhaps. Thank you, Stan and Derek, as well. Appreciate it, guys. I think this is my favorite meme of today. All right, guys, I guess that's about it. I'm going to log off and eat a little bit of lunch if that's all right with you.
What are you eating for lunch?
Peanut butter and jelly.